Good afternoon, team, and welcome back to the Club Northern Super Regional Semifinals Championships. Today, the skies have opened. It is a sunny 73 degrees here in Lamont, Illinois at the Blaze Stadium. My name is Darian Lovelace. I'm joined by national championship winning head coach Craig Wilson from Yale University. We're here today with the Grand Rapids Growlers versus the St. Louis Sabres for that D2 championship that will be played tomorrow. We've got a very big matchup in between these two sides coming up. Craig, you've won a championship recently. What do you think is going through these minds of the players as they enter into the semifinals the day before the opportunity to play in the championship?
Well, look, thanks for having me, first of all. But look, I'm sure there's a lot of nerves, but there's a reason why they've got themselves into this position. They've worked hard all season. They've got themselves into playoff rugby. So in terms of the mindset, use that excitement to fuel what you're going to do moving forward. But remember why you're here, why you got here, and don't go too far away from that.
A lot of really good points. They better listen up hard to you after that championship you just won. We've got head referee in the middle. That's Andrew Dunn. Dunn will be kind of heading this match here. We've got our St. Louis Sabres. They're going to be on the left-hand side in the blue, and then Grand Rapids Growlers. They're getting ready to take the field. They're on your right-hand side in that blue and green. And we are set up for this matchup between the women's D2 for the semifinal championship. Done now, getting set and ready for kickoff. The winner of this game is going to play who's playing on our other field. It's going to be South Buffalo or the Boulder Babes that will be playing against whoever wins this game for the D2 championship for Club Rugby. And ball overhead, ball goes up. Looks as if it hit the 10, so now the Sabres are on the attack after gaining control of that kickoff. There's a competition, though, at the breakdown. Growlers already looking pretty aggressive here in their launch. The hit is made in the middle of the field. Some gaps are opening up here already on this right-hand side. They do good with an offload, though, that ends up in the hands of the Sabres. Good ball retention here as they look to find that weak side around the left. They're now well into the 22. Done telling the Growlers to get back on sides. This is promising stuff from the Sabres, but those nerves might be kicking in, as Craig said, as ball goes to ground. They recover well, though, and now they're just going to go ahead and look to move it through the hands. A little bit of a late pass finds it in the hands of the center, and now the Sabres are knocking at the door. That's Morton. Morton now brings her team to the 5. Dunn gets into the whistle, and it looks like a not rolling away penalty comes in for the Growlers. And now they're just going to talk shop about what they're going to do down in this end, but good stuff already coming in from the Sabres.
Yeah, wonderful start there from the Sabres. You can see they've got clear structure. They're trying to get their forward runners off 9, and they really put some phases together now. It looks like a tap penalty play, so I'll throw it back to you, Darian.
And already the Sabres fighting for tooth and nail. Forwards are set on the left-hand side as they look now to go through. A behind-the-back pass finds it in the hands of the backs. A good work rate from the 10 in a loop, but Shomar gets it behind the attack, and a knock-on finds it perfectly placed in the hands of the Growlers. But it looks like an early penalty, an advantage for... Looks like that might have been a slap down. Might have just gotten a little bit in the way. That might have been the error on Shomar's pass.
It's like a flying V they've got set up here. Something's coming.
X marks the spot there as the Sabres get this party going. It finds it in the hands of the big number 8 Smith. She takes it hard to the line. And the Sabres do a nice little inside pop. The number 2 now is at it. Hunter, she's hunting for that line. Sabres continuing to press on, though, as they work it through the hands. They found some space on the outside. A cutback inside might find them in the try zone. It does. We'll get that number for you in just a second. But 2 minutes, 30 seconds gone already, and the Sabres find themselves on top 5-0 over the Grand Rapids Growlers.
And if you were a Sabres coaching staff, you would be thrilled with that opening 2.5 minutes. Great play. All came from that tap penalty. Some really good structure, some system play, and then that sucked in the Growlers defense, and then it's a great miss pass just to get that ball on the edge, and then they get in for the try. But that was just a wonderful opening 2 minutes. They control possession. They had great plays. There was a nice little switch play between the 9 and the forward runners as well, and it was just moving that point of attack constantly. And then that miss pass to finish the try right in front of the Russian defense was just really great skill level. Perfect start from the Sabres.
Looks like that was Wilcox that scored that try. So the Sabres now on top 5-0, and it looks like Mild will be the one set for the kickoff. Let's see if she can spice it up. Add a couple more points to the board. Switching
She's
from
gonna have to get a
7s
move
to
on
15.
here.
Yeah, I was just saying, I know that there's a lot of time for the kick whenever it comes to 15s, but time is dwindling out here a little bit. The angle looks good. Power might have fallen just short as it does hit the pads on the post, but Sabres over Rapids 5-0. And Craig, you mentioned a lot about possession. It's very important here in the 15s game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw that from the Sabres. They just kept possession, and it was putting the opposition back. That's a great switch play between 9 and 2, just to really change the point of attack. But what I liked about this, look at the quick hands and then the miss pass to find the edge. That was where the damage was done. They could get in for the try. But yeah, possession is absolutely vital. And if you don't have possession, the next best thing is territory. And that's why they go long with the kick here.
Long kick comes in from the Growlers, their first kickoff of the game, as a big fend and a second big fend with a spin move and a duck underneath the ball. Makes it so that the Sabres are just back on the attack now at the 40. Looks like an offload, but she decides to keep it. Smith, high rugby IQ coming in already as Mild has it in the hands. A big rushing defense, though, comes in from the Growlers, and a big hit on the number 13, it looks like. She's a little slow getting up, but aggressive launch coming in from the Growlers here.
Yeah, that's exactly what they needed, because it looked like the Sabres were starting to get their runners going again and get that possession with go forward ball, but what a way to stop it from the Growlers there. They absolutely powered through off the line. Just look at this technique. It was good, strong wrap, really targeted the ball, and that's why that ball was dislodged. It was unfortunate that the knock on when they tried to pick it up, but that was a really great tackle, shoulder to the ball, dislodged it, and that's a great defensive set.
First scrum of the match looks strong, but there's a little bit of an angle there coming in from the Growlers. So Sabres end up with a penalty. They decide to go ahead and go quickly, and of course it's going to be in the hands of Smith. Continuing now to use that other hand, though, to get some big fends. A lot of leg drive. That was almost a 40-meter break with just the power coming in from Smith. So they'll keep it in the hands of the strong forwards as a pod waits for it. Ball is won cleanly, and it moves to the left-hand side. The hands there from the Sabres is impressive, but an ankle tap tackle from the Growlers. Pin them down here, but just the violence coming in from Munoz. Ruiz gets them some more meters as a pass back inside, keeps the ball alive. David now wants a taste of whatever these Sabres are foaming at the mouth for. And of course, Smith, can she get in between the sticks after two big runs coming in from Smith? Get them now 10-0, Sabres over top of the Growlers.
Mandy Smith, she started it and she finished it. Power running. So all came from that penalty, tap and go. And then, as you said there, on the play-by-play, she took the 40 meters, and then it was just powerful runners. Just look at the strength of these players there. Great presentation. So nice little bit of detail there. Lovely pass. And then she's just running off 10. And then she's just busting these tackles. That's one player. That's two player. No one's stopping Mandy Smith right now. She's laid down a marker for her team. She's really set a high standard for them.
We'll go ahead and have a kick right in the center of the sticks, as it looks like that's Basler, the flanker, getting ready to take the center kick. As a fellow back row, we love to see the wide skill set. Kick goes up, and it is good, so that's going to bring our score 12-0. Sabres leading over the Growlers. And Growlers are really going to have a conversation about how to stop these really strong ball carriers.
Yeah, well, you saw they did have that opportunity when they got that initial turnover with a strong tackle, but then they switched off when it came to the quick tap penalty. Just as we watch here, great skill set, lovely little tip pass there to the Mandy Smith, and she just powers through. She's going to be looking to do that all day. From a Rapids point of view, you've just got to get that interior defense set, that players closest to the ruck. That's where you've got to stop that initial momentum, because if the attack gets that momentum, it's much, much harder to wrestle back.
WrestleMania continues here as the Growlers get set for the kickoff. Shimmick decides to use a different tactic. It makes it just barely at the 10, but it's fielded cleanly by the Sabres. So now they're just within their 40 as they go ahead and find it in the hands of the conversion kicker, Bassler. Moving it now, though, a little bit of pressure defense. Ends up with the ball kind of hitting deck, and another big hit comes in. But just might have gotten a little bit too excited for that rush defense there, as it looks like Dunn puts his arms up for an offsides call.
Yeah, I think it was the right idea. I think there was two good tackles there, and yes, they were slightly offside, but you mentioned earlier how they're going to get back into this game with their defense. That's exactly what they need to do. They just got to stay on the right side of the offside line. It definitely shoots a hope there from the Growlers.
Smith, our earlier try scorer, kicks it right on out. As we take a look up here, it is the Grizzlies over the Trades, with Grizzly leading 26-17. This is for the men's D3 semifinals. To see the Grizzlies on top with about 20 minutes left to go. We love the multiple angles coming at you live from Next Level Rugby as the USA Club Championships continue to ensue. Forwards go through off of a lineup, and it ends up in the hands of Munoz Ruiz after a nice little behind the back pass. Growlers, though, trying to get into that space, but Dunn's not happy with it. Somebody who's happy to take it, though, is Lopez, as the 9 aggressively taking it at the line. Growlers are having to really work to get back on defense. The line looks strong, though, as they come up and do a hard launch against David. Slow to get to the ball. And that pressured defense coming in from the Growlers just forces the ball to go right through the hands of the wing. And they're contesting heavily at this breakdown, finding some vulnerability there. Tussling now for it is the Growlers. And the Growlers, with a little bit of fire now, take that ball back. They've got room, though, on the left-hand side. A lot of blue bodies over here looking at the breakdown. But we'll see if the ball movement works. Pressure defense around the interior. Just keeps on pinning these Growlers back. They elect now to use the pick and go. A little space opens up there after a cheeky show and go. Looks like the support might have been lacking there. They were quick to get over it, but just didn't hold their weight and not rolling away. So now the Growlers get their first penalty.
Yeah, really good work at the breakdown there from the Growlers. They put a lot of pressure on. First of all, they made their tackle, then they got up and they competed, and that's how they initially won that ball back. And you could see that they were trying to really punch that ball with the close runners, as we see a great kick there. Just as we're looking back, look at this under pressure. That's 2 tacklers and then the offload as well. Really nice play there from the Sabres. And just as we look back at the penalty, just good work. Yeah, and just not rolling away, so it didn't allow a clean contest. Easy decision for the referee.
Ball finds its way out of bounds, so we'll have a line out from the team in green, the Growlers. Ball goes in, it's won cleanly up at the top as the Growlers now move it into the hands of their 10 and then move it to the forwards. Forwards, though, keeping the ball alive. Get it in the hands of the centers. Ruck looks solid, but ball's a little bit slow to get out as they set up their platform for attack. The forwards now taking it right into the mouth of the Sabers. And then a kick over the top. There's nobody back at home, so it's now a foot race. The 15 is under a little bit of pressure there from the Growlers, but she does well with the footwork. She flies like a bird. So Bird goes ahead and will set up a attack for the Sabres as they elect to go ahead and kick it out, but penalty might have been called here from Dunn for an offsides, and that's a big turnover events there for the Growlers as they get a penalty right at the 22.
Yeah, and it all came from really smart play. The Russian defense from the Sabres, so that means there's going to be space in behind. And it was a beautiful kick through. Critically, when you're kicking through, you want it to find grass because that's where the chaos can come from. That got the field position, and now they can launch their own attack.
And the Sabres just allow the number 10 to go ahead and run across the face. Shimmick takes it in, and it looks like there's a little bit of a competition down at the bottom of the ruck. Finally, somebody rolls out of there, and so the Growlers are going to go ahead and continue to knock on the door. The number 13 just decides to take it right into the heart of the Sabres. And big collisions already happening here in the middle as Benzel, fancy, tries to get a little too fancy there with the ball on the deck. But it looks like the Sabres might have gotten a little bit too fancy there, tried a little too hard, so they're getting a penalty about 10 meters out. And Craig, it seems that both teams have kind of lacked discipline down here in the opposing ends.
Yeah, you just need to keep your composure. A lot of coaches manage like points when in 22 entries, and this is what we've got to look for here from the Growlers as they tap and go.
Shimmick moves it into the hands of her trusty forwards, and they're going to elect to do the pick and go. Somebody looks like they're stuck under the base there, though. Looks like the ball just might have not been taken in very cleanly. Benzel knocks it on only 5 meters outside of their try zone, so we'll have a scrum going in favor of the St. Louis Sabres.
So the big moments in this match have all come actually at the breakdown. The breakdown is fiercely contested. Right now, I would say that the defense on both sides at the defensive breakdown are getting the ascendancy. They're putting players in. They're not necessarily jackling the ball or stealing the ball, but what they are doing, they're contesting the ball. At worst, that allows your defense to get set. At best, you get the turnover, and that's what's happening now. So keep an eye on the breakdowns because they're fiercely contested right now.
Scrum goes up. It looks like there's some arms, though, flying up at the top from the hooker on the... And everybody just a little bit slow to get on up there.
Yeah, it didn't look particularly comfortable in that scrum, but the Growlers would be excited. They got a real good push on, and that's exactly what you want in this area of the field. You want to make it as difficult for the attack as possible. Also, the position on the field, you can see the posts are a little bit awkward, so you're going to have to move that ball either side if you want to clear it. So, although the Growlers don't have the ball, they've got themselves in a very good position.
We see from the Growlers, Benzel, the number 8, giving some of those shoulder taps to all of the Growlers, kind of revving up the team here. Because as you said, they are in a very good defensive position. So we'll look for the Sabres to try and work their way out of this end. Except for the put in is Lopez. A scrum goes underway. Looks a lot more stable this time around. There is a little bit of a competition up at the front row, though. She's under a bit of pressure, but moves it well to Mild. Mild goes ahead and just kicks it right off of that first pass receipt. It bounces once and then ends up right out of the 22, and this is a very good attacking position for the Growlers.
Yeah, absolutely. So defensively, that was an excellent set. You put initial pressure on at the scrum, and then you don't give the attack, in this case the Sabres, an easy exit, and the kick doesn't go as far as she would like. So a line out, 21 meters out, is a pretty good attacking position. But championships are won on good set piece, and line outs are going to be absolutely crucial in this game.
Growlers have a little bit of movement at the back, and then don't have enough movement at the front as a knock-on. Comes because the Sabres finding it in Hunter. Hunter went hunting for the ball up at the top of that line out. So now we'll have a scrum, but it'll go in favor of the Growlers because of just an unfortunate knock-on.
Yeah, just from the initial outset from the Growlers, it looks like number 8, Lindsay Benzel, is the go-to line-out person. So what the Sabres did really well, they just put their front lifting pod at the front of the line out, And they're essentially saying, if you're going to beat us at the line out, you're going to have to go over our front lifting pod, and that causes a lot of chaos, just as we look at the other field over here.
26-17. It looks like the Grizz is still on top. We've got about 10 minutes left to go, a little over that. So it looks like both teams are really vying for this D3 championship. But back to the task at hand. Growlers just did a substitution. We don't have that reserve list for you. We've got some nicknames. So if we call them Goofy, Dad, Hiccup, or Coach, just understand we tried our best here as a knock-on happens at the back of the scrum. The referee Dunn also spots a secondary knock-on. So it looks like the call is going to go in favor of the Growlers yet again. But big pressure coming in from that number 9, Lopez.
Yeah, Lopez has been everywhere in attack and defense, and she didn't get quite on the right side of the call this time, but it's about the pressure that she's putting on. She's letting her opposite number know this is not going to be an easy day for number 9, the Growlers, Stanton. They're going to have tough days all day, and that's what all great 9s do. They put a lot of pressure on each other. It's like a battle within a battle. It's always great seeing those players go at each other.
Stanton, who also goes by the nickname Rat, might just have a little bit of street in her, so we'll see how she combats that pressure from Lopez. Ball goes in, and Growlers are able to withstand that pressure from the scrum, but number 10 under a little bit of pressure there, Shimmick. She gets it to the centers, and they're on the back foot. They do want to recover, though, and they finally find it in the hands of the number 11. She's quick, she's fast. Can she get past that number 15? She doesn't. Good spot tackle coming in from Wells against Casicia, the hot dog. As the Growlers now are on the look for some points on the board. A good inside show and go coming in from Shimmick. Finds him just blazing and knocking at the door about 2 meters outside of the try zone. It's now Rat. Gets it to her forwards. And the sub finds her way just short. Because now they're going to go ahead and look for the pick and goes, trying to find a little bit of some spot gaps around. The arm gets extended, the arm goes up, and that's going to be a try in favor of the Growlers, 5-12. As they finally find some points on the board.
Yeah, a great team try. So it all came from the set piece. They moved the ball to the right-hand side. And I tell you what, initially it was a wonderful tackle from 15 Wells to stop that certain try. But then the forwards went to work. Just as we look back at the strike play here, we just tried to move the ball wide, but they kept themselves calm and they used their handling skill set just to move that. So a wonderful pass just to get on the edge. And then you've got the speedster. But check out this tackle for all money. Looked like she was in, but there we go. That was beautiful. But from the Growlers, they kept their composure and then they let the big girls go to work. They're picking and going. They were playing off 9 and they really, really responded well. Going 12-0 down, that could have been disheartening. But this last 10 minutes has all been about the Growlers, and they've got themselves field position, possession, and then ultimately a try. So very, very good reaction from the Growlers team.
Growlers finally looking like they are ready to make some noise here as the number 10 Shimmick goes ahead and sets up for the kick. And Craig, we could just start to finally see the Growlers start to come into shape. You talked about the nerves, especially during championship weekend in the semis. So it'll be interesting in these next 20 minutes. We kind of see those momentum shifts for rugby, but the Growlers are just starting to look really fierce now.
Yeah, they came out with a bit disappointed about how they started, but as you just mentioned there, Darren, it's all about momentum. Each team gets the momentum at time, and it's all about those top teams. How can they wrestle it back as quickly as possible? So you've got to be really, really happy from a Growlers point of view. Their mindset was excellent, and this game is really evenly poised with a quarter of the game gone. I'm excited to see how this one unfolds.
Set for the kick is Mild yet again, as she elects to go short. It's right at the 10, and both teams decide to go for it. Looks like the ball might have ended up just a slight bit forward from Basler, but that was some very fiery contest already right off of kickoff from the Sabres.
Yeah, it was a contestable kick, so that means that the attack has an opportunity to get that ball back. There was a big collision and put the pressure on. And then it looks like Growlers got on the right side of the call from their point of view. Midfield scrum, an opportunity to exit. But as we've seen so far, This has been a great contest at the scrum, great packs going at each other. Let's see how this one plays.
Scrum goes underway. It's at the 40 in Growlers territory, but they do well to win the scrum. The hands look a lot better coming in from the center to the fullback. Do an over-the-top pass, but ends up setting up that 13 for failure there. She gets taken to ground quickly by the Sabres. The Sabres with a good interior launch just leaves a little bit of space for the Growlers to make it through, and they do well to make some big meters there as the Nell is stuck at the bottom. And now they've got some momentum moving, but the Sabres doing everything they can to disrupt. Hunter tries to get in there. She's unsuccessful, though, as they look to move through the hands. Taken down, though, right at the final point of the defense. The Sabres go ahead and keep that fold, maintain that line, as it looks like David is going in there and trying to make a mess of things, but just too slow to get over the ball. The Growlers continue to press on as ball movement starts to slow down, trying to find a spot of where they should go. Forwards are set on the left-hand side as the backs are on the right, but some tiring stuff already here. The Growlers continue to just power through, and just a very good spot coming in from the number 4. That was hard work coming in from Matthews, as now the Sabres have an opportunity to attack out. They do well to run it right back into the same point where the turnover is. Lots of pressure already ready and waiting from the Growlers. Sabres can maybe find some success out wide. I'm sure they'd feel a lot better as they try and get it in the hands of Will Cox, the first try scorer. And there's a big contest happening at the breakdown. Looks like illegally, though, coming in from the side. Referee Dunn blows it back up, but that was a long passage of play for both sides.
Yeah, that was absolutely exhausting, and you could just see from a Growler's point of view, as those phases started to mount up an attack, their structure started to go. There's a lot of hands on knees now from both teams. There's a long way to go in this game, so I've got a feeling that fatigue and fitness is going to be a big determinant of the winners now. But that's good line speed there from the Growlers, and then just that skill set error. But it looks like there was a penalty coming in from the side. Yeah, maybe slightly off feed as well, not allowing for that clean contest. Referee is right on the spot, so great work from him. But yeah, but it's really important that the team with fatigues less and can hold their own much more.
Hunter now set for the throw-in for the Sabres after they elected to go ahead and kick out of bounds for the line out. Going up in the back, it almost ends up finding its way down, but Cunningham is able to just grab it by the fingertips as they do a lot of behind-the-back passes, and the Sabres kind of get the defense a little bit confused there for the Growlers, so they get it to their number 14, Morton, and Morton finally brought down. Sabres do well to recover as the number 15 spots a little bit of some real estate there. Wells gets about 5 meters ahead as they're well into the 40. Basler tries to work her way around that third defender for the Growlers. Leaves a little bit of vulnerability there. They do well to recover. A lot of very good interplay coming in for the Sabres. This ball movement that's coming in from Shomar is really setting them up for success, but she's got to go in. So David decides to be the first receiver on that one. Runs the corner well. They're working extremely hard and extremely well together as Smith, she's just a bully in the contact. Bullies her way over for one, but a cover tackle just keeps her barely out of the try zone, 5 meters outside. There's a competition, though, at the breakdown illegally, says referee Dunn. Mile tries to go quickly, spotted a little bit of a gap, but Dunn calls her back. And Smith just really annihilating that defense.
Yeah, she's an absolute wrecking ball, Smith. Just watch here. Just look how she powers into the contact. She uses her arms to fend off, and she's just powering away. It was a great covering tackle, but she is dangerous. And then you can see here, we've already had this tap play penalty. We've got the V. Let's see what they do.
Basler takes it from the left, cut back to the right, and that leaves a little bit of evasion. So now they're right at the 1 meter. Dunn is kind of peering underneath it to see where it's at. Ball kind of goes a little wayward, but a dive after a switch coming in from Lopez. We'll get you that number in just a second. It looks like that was David that made it in between the sticks. So now that's going to bring it 17-7. Sabres on top.
And that try there was exactly the same as their tap penalty play where they did the miss pass last time. It was the carry up from the V. So look at Smith, who got themselves into that position. But then when it was from the penalty, it's a strong runner to the heart of the defense, and then it's a switch play with 9. They do it one more time. There's that little switch play. It's very intricate. They did that before. This time, the player on the switch got the ball, and then they got the try. So you can see that's really good coaching, great understanding of what they're trying to do. And that was just great work there from the Sabres. And remember, that was built on probably 10 phases, working themselves up the field until Smith made that really good line break. So just top work, very, very good from the Sabres. Excellent coaching. They're going to be proud of that one.
Basler will get set for the conversion. And we talked about intricacy, the tiny details, especially at a D2 championship, that ball retention that the Sabres have, get them opportunities to end down in the try zone, and successful conversions from Basler just continue to extend that lead for the Sabres. As we take another look at and Craig, I'm sure that after Yale just recently winning the championship, you guys talk about ball placement, the scoring, the try. I mean, their ball placement and their ball movement is just very impressive from the Sabres.
Yeah, it's all about the details. Both teams are good. They wouldn't be here if it wasn't, if they weren't good enough. So it's all about those little details. When you carry into contact, do you present well? Are your supporters there? Who's in and around to keep that continuity? And that's the difference maker at the very top level as both these teams push. But also a big part of it as well is the fitness level, and you just get a sense now that the Growlers are getting a little bit tired. You can see a lot of hand on hips, hand on knees. That body language doesn't go unnoticed from the opposition, so that's something they probably want to address at halftime.
Sabres now on the attack as we take a look at the final play for the Grizz over the trade. 26-24, and all they've got to do is just win the scrum if they want to make it to the D3 championship tomorrow. Detroit is attacking now, and they've got a perfect position. They could win it. Look at the other field if you want to go ahead and stay tuned. We've got both coming at you, all thanks to our production crew. Next Level Rugby always bringing you Saturday and Sundays as rugby days. We're here every weekend.
You can see, again, they love this tap penalty play. Look how they get their forwards in somewhat of a V formation. They're just trying to get numbers around the ball, and they're going to slide a different way. And that's exactly what they've done. They've been running that switch play off of this. I'd be interested to see if they go wide or keep it tight.
Hunter takes the ball after a little bit of a switcheroo with Lopez, and this ball movement between Schomer and Muniz-Ruiz finds it almost at the hinge of it, and Wilcox just powers over to get her team some more meters. Matthews now has it. A little bit isolated, though. They do well to recover. Sabres now moving it through their fly half to a waiting forward pod. David was that recent scorer. As the Growlers are really looking to contest at the breakdown, but there's a lot of gaps open out here. First receiver, though, takes it in. There was some space to work it out wide, but the support is quick. Mild gives a little bit of time as she decides to pick it up for Lopez. And the ball's now just going backwards. Continues to hit the deck as Basler decides to go ahead and reset their attack. But slow walk back doesn't really give a lot of options as Muniz-Ruiz has to take it on the left-hand side. Wilcox is right at that sideline. Almost gets taken out of bounds, but does well to stay in. Growlers now continuing to have to play a lot of defense. Smith ends up with the arm around the shoulder, but does well to move lower. She's slow to get up after Matthews had to take an offload. And competing heavily at the breakdown is the Growlers. A lot of bodies having to come in for the Sabres. This is some tiring defense. Something's got to pay off, and it does for the Growlers. A little chip kick over the top. Finds it deep within this half. And what a turn of events for the Growlers.
Yeah, both teams are absolutely exhausted, but you got to hand it to the Growlers there. There was a lot of last-ditch tackles. It just looked like the Sabres were going to break away, and then the Growlers defense came in and took them down. And just this contest at the ruck is incredible. There's some very, very strong women out there making sure they're putting everything online for their team, and you can just see that the breakdown, whoever gets the ascendancy there is probably going to control this game, but right now it's 50-50.
Ball goes up, is in the middle. A tap from the Sabres finds it successfully in the hands of the Growlers. Might have not started had they wanted to, but nonetheless, they press on. Waiting for the ball, though, is Stanton as she moves it to the center. Good, quick ball movement. Finds it in the hand. It looks like that's Peeler. Peeler moves it inside to the fullback. We'll go ahead and we'll get a number for you in just a second, but the red scrum cap leads the brigade for the Growlers, and they end up 12-19 and a beautiful conversion position for them as well.
Yeah, wonderful try. Came from a line out, actually, from the Growlers. It came from a knock-on from the Sabres, so they're going to be disappointed with that. And then what happened from there, the defense got really, really condensed towards that first ruck. And then it was the skill set of the Growlers to move that ball. All it was, they just let the ball do the work. It's probably coaching 101 in rugby. Just move the ball. It can go quicker than the player. And exactly what they did. And then eventually they found that space and they raced through from the try. But it was just really good skill sets from the Growlers, particularly because they're a little bit tired. But the defense from the Sabres are going to be disappointed because they became really, really punched around the ruck.
And the disappointment ensues for the Sabres as we take a look at this. That was the number 15 who scored that try, Wells.
Yeah, Megan Bird, she was a USA Pathway player a few years ago. She's a very dangerous player. It's great to see her continuing on in the senior game.
Bird was the one who scored that try. Flying high in the sky was Bird. As now the Sabres are going to get set for the kickoff. Conversion was good, so that brings our score 14-19. About a try in between the two sides. We've only got about a little over 5 minutes left to go here in this first half for the D2 semifinals in the championship. Mild will get us underway as the kick goes low. It's a raking kick that just allows some more time for Peeler to get through this defense. She wasn't held, so she does a good job. But it looks like some low body position, a little bit of some unhappy voices being shared from the Growlers as they finally get the Sabres out of there. Good hard launching defense from Shomar. Catches the Growlers in the middle. As Shimmick is under a lot of pressure there. Flooding over top is David. David wanting to get back down in the try zone. She just scored the last try for the Sabres. And everything just kind of moving a little bit slow there for the Growlers. They decide to keep it tight in with their forwards, and keeping it tight pays off well for them as Bassett gets a lot more meters than what looked like she bargained for. Ball ends up hitting the deck as Meadows has to recover it quickly. And moving it now through the hands of their backs. Gets it in the hands of the number 11. She's pretty quick, Cassia. Cassia, though, gets just brought straight down to ground from that hinge defense from the Sabres. But a not rolling away penalty from the number 19, Wilcox. Gets a penalty going in favor of the Growlers.
Yeah, you can see the Growlers were pretty unhappy a few phases ago, and I'm with them. It looked like, for all money, the Sabres were off their feet at that ruck, and you can see they're getting a little bit tired there now defensively from the Sabres. They're starting to go off their feet or not rolling away, and that just relieves the pressure and allows the Growlers just to continue on. You can see now the Growlers' backs have really started to get their hands on the ball. Their skill sets are excellent. People are running on at pace. You got Bird coming onto it. You got Peeler. You got Casasias, the one who you still there. They're starting to look really, really threatening. So this is good signs for the Growlers.
Shimmick gets him a little bit more rest as she gets that ball out of bounds, and they get set for a line out. They elect to move it in the front pod, and they also decide to maul here, getting some good go forward. Trugby, a solid rugby name, gets it in the back. And they continue to press on as the Sabres keep flooding in bodies. They almost get it out of bounds, so they've got to dig for it. Stanton moves it to Shimmick, who then gets it in the hands of the try scorer. The number 15 does a good weave inside Bird. Bird is on the hunt for another try as she just continues to press on. But the Sabres do well to recover about 5 meters outside. Looks like some hands got in there. Dunn's happy with it. And so are the Sabres as Morton gets that turnover after a beautiful line break from Bird. Looking now to kick it out of bounds. It looks like the kick is still in play though. Scrambling to get back and a nice little cut back inside. Gets it into the hands of the 14 Chip. But a lot of phase play having to happen for the Growlers here. They've got a lot of space to work it wide if they can get it there on the right-hand side. But doing the pick and goes on the left, they decide to find their support, keeping the ball in the ruck. A little bit of a cheeky play, but we play to the ref. Contest, though, happening at the breakdown for the Sabres. This launch, though, looks pretty promising as they continue to come up in the face, but this ball movement, the evasion, might have had a little bit too much sauce there, but Casisia has to work extra hard to keep the ball in play and offload. Gets it into the hands of one of her forwards, but the ball just squirts out of the back. A good recovery tackle from the Growlers to knock them out of bounds, but the Sabres, a lot of defensive play coming in for the Sabres, and the Growlers just can't seem to have an answer for it.
And number 14, Morton, massive play. 2 big turnovers there. For all money, you thought Megan Bird was in. But she made the tackle. She got back up on her feet and she stole the ball. She had all rights to the ball, stayed on her feet and got a crucial turnover. And she, although she was bundled into touch as well there, Morton, it was a great turnover.
Sabres now end up with the turnover there at line-out time as well. And you can see the Growlers desperately calling for some defense as a crossfield kick gets over the head of the wing, but the wing has a little bit of space to work with, almost gets taken out by a turf monster, and then gets taken out by a monster of a tackle from the number 16 for the Sabres. And just that one little boot ends up on the sideline, which will go ahead and bring us to halftime, though, with the Sabres on top of the Growlers 19-14. We've got a whole second half for you for this club at Northern Super Regional Semi.
Okay, so you're gonna give me the same thumbs up. So yeah, keep communicating. Just
Welcome back, team, as we enter into the D2 semifinal championships. This is the second half of the game. We've got the Sabres on top, leading 19-12 over the Growlers, and they have just been singing the beautiful song of the blues as they just continue to string phases together. My name is Darian Lovelace. I'm joined by the Craig Wilson, recent national champion. You've been in semifinal situations before. What are both teams doing right, and what are they going to have to work on in order to get on top?
So at halftime, the conversation needs to be about securing the breakdowns. Both defensive plays at the breakdown have been dominating, so how do you do that in attack? You need numbers around the ball, you need to be really good on your presentation skills. That allows you to get front football. The team that controls the breakdown, it's looking like the team is going to control the win. But also a big thing in all of this, Darian, it comes down to fitness. Which team is going to last longer under these really difficult conditions what both pressured defenses are putting the pressure under?
And I'm sure that you preach fitness to your team as well, who ended up with the championship just recently and who came back from a couple comeback wins. So it's really anybody's game. We're entering into a second half matchup between the Growlers and the Sabres. Now, tomorrow at 12 p.m. East, 12 p.m. Central Time, we'll be back here for the D2 Championship. These are the Northern Super Regional games as we get underway. Referee Dunn in center field as Shimmick gets ready for the kickoff. And one thing we talked about between these two sides for the first half was their ball movement. So keep an eye out for Shimmick as well as the number 10 on the Saber side, Shomar. They've been such good conductors in both attacking phases. 5-point lead with the Sabres over top. Ball possession means everything, and they allow the kick to go over top to find it in the hands of Wilcox, who does well to get it to the forwards who just want to set a good platform. Looks like some substitutes came in, and Manu is on for the Sabres. So now the ball continues to work its way into center field. Almost thinking about risking it was Smith, but she decides to keep it there. And at the 22 now, just trying to chip away at this defense is, of course, David, who was a big ball carrier in that first half. Gets them some more phases. A lot of phases played down in here. Gets them past the 22. So the option for an exit, though, they've got to go ahead and power through this gray area to end up in their try zone. But doing a good job of keeping the ball in hand. Craig, we talked about how important ball possession is. This is some tiring phase play for the teams.
It absolutely is. It's almost a carbon copy of the first half as they move that ball into the wide channels. Looks like they just forced the forward pass there. I mean, as you mentioned, it's all about that ball possession, but you've got to hand it to the Growlers. Their defense looks strong. It looked like for me at a couple of phases before that Pila had her hands on the ball very cleanly from the ruck. It wasn't quite rewarded from the referee, but good defense from there. They forced the forward pass. And much like the first half, the Sabres started with a lot of possession. In the first half, they got the early try. This time they didn't. So that's a good defensive set from the Growlers.
Growler set for the put in Stanton, who also was a good ball mover to Shimmick. That 9-10 combination for both sides is pretty exceptional. So we're seeing some very good ball movement, all starting with our fly halves. But work is to be done, though, at the front row. Growlers do well to withstand the pressure and almost get a good shove there on the Sabres towards the end. So fitness at set piece looks good, and so does the ball movement as Bird gets it away to the number 14, kind of chips it around some, but then they do well. Now Bird tells them to move it to the right-hand side. Shimmick, though, is a little bit isolated there, so elects for a kick that's smart, clever kick going over the backs of the defense. So the Sabres now are going to have to try and remedy the situation. Looks like it was just a touch, though, that happened down in this end after a possible knock-on from Wagner. But now the Sabres find themselves in the exact same position that we've been in for the past 2 minutes, well within their 22. And a big counter ruck, and legal, says referee Dunn, as a BOGO on the strength from the Growlers gets them a good reward. And Shimmick just getting a little bit too excited behind the back of referee Dunn. He calls it back, but this defense is getting some rewards here as they get to attack.
Yeah, making their tackles, they're getting the Sabres on the floor, and then they're dominating the breakdown. Every single breakdown, there's a defensive pressure there from the Growlers, and that's how they got their reward, and they can launch their own attack.
Forwards run a shadow line as it goes behind their backs and into the hands of Shimmick. And now looking to move it through the backs, that central combo between Rotislier and Peeler. Leaves about 2 against 5 Sabres. They do well though to recover with an inside line. Casisia offloads it to a waiting forward, who then moves it back in to Stanton, who gets it away from the pressure area. Bassett takes it right into David, and David, the hero of the 22, gets the ball back for the Sabres. Heartbreak there for the Growlers, as kicking it over the top is Shomar, and Shomar deep within the 22. The ball just rests there for Bird, but she's got to wrestle it to ground. There's obviously a contest at the breakdown because the Sabres recognize she's isolated, and they get highly rewarded. Tiring phases of play here for the Sabres against the Growlers, as the Sabres now are just barking at that 50, trying to get out of this end. They move the ball wide. The number 13, Mild, she keeps it, decides to not risk it, not add that little bit of spice there, and it could have cost her because the Growlers get in there and they're contesting heavily at the breakdown. It's in central field. This is the time to risk it. It pays off well, and a second turnover. Shimmick goes to boot. There's a wrestle down at the back. Ball looks like it might have gotten lost at the bottom, but the Sabres are under immense pressure here from the Growlers. Looks like somebody might be stalking off for possible injury. Referee Dunn finally blows that whistle after 3 minutes of continual play between the Sabres and the Growlers. Craig, I'm winded up here just talking about it.
Yeah, where to start on that one? This is an absolute battle. I think the Sabres might have got away with one. Jennifer Cunningham, number 17, on that kick through. She was clearly off her feet, played the ball on the ground, but they got away with it. And then the ball went back and forth. And I tell you what, this breakdown, it's absolute chaos right now. Both teams are given absolutely everything. But what that does mean, because both teams are putting numbers in the defensive breakdown, there's got to be space somewhere. So if a team can get a little bit of possession and move that ball maybe 2 passes away from the ruck, there's a lot of space. So just keep an eye out as this starts to develop. And then you throw in the fatigue where players aren't quite getting in position like they were in the first half. There's going to be a few big holes that can be exploited. But you've got to be able to see them, communicate that the space is there, and critically execute.
And the cure to better ball movement is to just buy yourself a little bit of time. Both teams probably had that conversation about their defensive launch. We're fresh off of halftime, so about 7 minutes gone in this second half. But all that takes is just one extra bit of patience, and that'll buy some more time for that ball movement we watched all throughout the first half. And now buying themselves a little bit of time is the Growlers, but they almost get caught as Casasia does a little bit of something too saucy. And the offload ends up finding it to the ground. But one thing that is easily exploited in all aspects of rugby is just that second to last connection. We talked about that launch, Craig, and it looks like the Growlers and the Sabres are both really putting a lot of pressure at that second to last attacker.
Yeah, Casasia there, if she had her time back, she probably would have given that ball to Megan Bird, and the red scrum had a little bit earlier, just took it a little bit too close to the defense, which, as you mentioned there, Darren, was coming up really hard. They were pretty connected in that wide channel, but there was space. So it's all about just knowing the distance between the defender and the attacker, and when to give the pass and when to hold it to really exploit that space.
This is when you hope that the curse of the commentator rings true. So hopefully both teams will kind of learn to make that adaptation to open up more space, as the Sabres win at scrum time and buying themselves some more time. Can they get it and work it through the hands? That was better connection though. Morton just not connecting with Wilcox, and it looks like there might have gotten a turnover at ball contact time as the Growlers end up with the ball back in hand. Using their forwards now, taking it right at the central line between that 40 and the 22. So about 30 meters outside of the try zone is the Growlers. A pass from Shimmick finds it in the strong hands of Bassett, but this launch that comes in from both sides at ruck time and at the line And just one team getting a little bit too ill-disciplined there. Sabres draw a penalty against the Growlers. Looks like a couple bodies remain down after that contact.
Yeah, you can see, just look at the body language, the Growlers look a little bit more tired than the Sabres right now. I wonder how that manifests. But what's interesting, it looks like the Growlers, they have the speed, where the Sabres have the power. So it's all about which one of those teams can get their strengths in the ascendancy the quickest. So we've got a real good opportunity here to see that. And as we just watch this line speed, look how they're getting off the line. And then it was a bit of ill discipline just as this play started to develop. The ball is clearly still in there. The ball's not out. It hasn't been lifted. Very easy call from the referee. So that was just a tired decision. And that's why fatigue has such a crucial part in these types of games.
Looks like Mild just got a little bit hot-headed there around the breakdown and unfortunately just drew that penalty. With close games like this, discipline especially matters. And Craig, you've been talking about the tired legs. That's whenever the lack of discipline really starts to show, as we see just a little bit of lack of time there and some pressure at line-out time. Get a not straight call. We'll see what the Sabres decide to do. Done asking for an option as we just take a look here about with that pressure.
Yeah, it just looked like the skill set had dropped off. It looks like they've went for the line out. Interesting decision because it hasn't been going really well to start. Scrum might have been more stable, but they're back in their skill set. Let's see how they do.
Getting set now. They do well to get in the face of that line out. So the Growlers disrupt the Sabres line of attack as two opposite situations happen here. Now the Sabres are going to have to protect their 5 after getting the possession of a line out and losing it there. The Growlers have some space to the left, but the defensive line looks good, and just the lack of discipline gets them a not releasing penalty about 10 meters out. And Shemek decides to take it in, their primary playmaker. We'll see what they decide to do with her in the ruck. And the Sabres not allowing a lot of time there and not allowing themselves to hold their feet in the ruck. Mild, her second time getting in there. You've got to start making the smart decisions at ruck time.
Yeah, as a tap penalty comes, you can imagine there's going to be a bit of a power play coming up.
Do you mind if I have a
They can
second
hit
to
it
try my
up here.
team?
Don't score. They can move it wide. There's opportunities. So the defense has got to get off the line and meet them. And this is really good play by the captain there. She was asking, look, can we just have a word? Can we just have a chat? It takes a little bit of sting out. It allows your defense to get set. But it also came from arguably a poor decision taking the line out initially, which they lost. Maybe a scrum. Just they've looked strong in the scrum, the Sabres. So maybe they'll look back on that. But they've got a real defensive effort coming now because it looks like the Big Girls are going to be carrying at the heart of their defense.
Looks like substitutes are starting to roll in. We've got the roster for the Sabres, but unfortunately not for the Growlers. So reserves, take your pick of Goofy, Dad, Hiccup, or Coach for the nicknames as to what substitutes end up getting subbed on from the starting 15. But one of the starting 15s, Bird, she's been such an instrumental part of this Growler attack. Looks like a hand might have ended up a little bit too high. So we hear Dunn shout for the Sabres to get back on sides there. They've racked up a couple of penalties here. He's had a conversation with them, so they're really going to have to maintain discipline. They stay smart and stay out of the ruck, but a contest comes in from the side from Manu. Referee says play on there, though, as this rush defense comes in from Mild. Looks like she might have gotten caught a little bit high there. Dunn gives a double whistle. You got to wonder, Craig, if because of these penalties, will he go to the pocket?
So I've given you a warning,
Yes, sir.
and now we have a high tackle.
Sir.
So that's a yellow card.
And that's the curse of the commentator. Fortunately, BOGO on the penalties for Mild, and her being the captain gets her around in the sin bin for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely right there, Darren. It's the only decision the referee could have made after a warning.
Electing now, they know that there's some space wide. Kisasia finally has some room to work with, but Wilcox does well to round her up. And then the Growlers, though, with a looping play from the 15, they find themselves in the try zone right after a fresh yellow card. And now the game is tied 19-19.
Yeah, big, and I really enjoyed the moving that ball wide because you can see how condensed the Sabres' defense was. They were really narrow, just moving that ball, and you could sense the two styles of play now. You want Sabres are kind of wanting an arm wrestle, a close game, where now the Growlers are starting to see the spaces out wide. So you're seeing a clash of styles now. There's no right or wrong style. It's the one who can get the ascendancy. So we've got a really interesting end to the second half, particularly with the scores tied with a difficult kick to come. Just as we look back, just keeping that ball alive, and then she eventually rounds the corner and gets in for a really well-deserved try. But yeah, just such a finely poised battle now. I'm really excited for this one. I'm not too sure where it's going to go.
19-19 with a kick to come. It's a hard angle here off of the right-hand side as we get set for something that could break this tie. Shimmick has an opportunity to off the boot. Get set and ready for the kick. This is a big moment here. This will be the first time the Growlers end up on top. Going up now, the kick looks like it might have gone a little wayward and is short. Flag stayed down, so we stay 19-19. But what a comeback from the Growlers. We talk about what wins championships. It's work rate and defense. And Craig, you just won that national championship with Yale. And I've got to say, after calling that game as well, one thing that won that championship was the work rate and the fitness, as we just take another look here at this play.
Yeah, it was just they've just found the edges, and that's just what the Growlers need to be doing. They need to make sure that they find those edges, almost scoring in the 15-meter channels, where from a Sabres point of view, you want to keep it a little bit tighter because you're getting a bit of ascendancy there. But it does come down, we mentioned it, who is fitter? Who can implement their game plan the longest? And right now, with 25 minutes to go, 19 all, this is going to be a big test of the character, and this is going to be a big test of what they've been doing all season to see who can get themselves over the line.
Ball goes back behind the 22, so Shimmick decides to go to boot. Somebody got told to pump their brakes there, so an offsides call from the Growlers off that kick. Get the Sabres a penalty right at the 40.
Oh, and that's an error they might begin to rue, because that was an excellent kick into space. The referee did clearly say they wanted that player to stop. I think it was number 6, just to back off a little bit. They didn't, so the referee was clear in his communication and made the call.
Setting up now to get the quick tap is Smith as they look to slow the attack down some. They've got somebody in the sin bin. Captain Mild had to take a seat after repeat infractions down in the try zone, which resulted in a Growlers try. So now the Sabres are looking to slow down this ball.
Yeah, I can't imagine this ball's going to be too far wide if they win it. They're going to keep it nice and tight, particularly with their 13 in the bin.
David keeps it tight, and so does Lopez as they move it into the hands of Smith. The power, though, earns her the right to end up over the 22. Lopez having to dig a little bit there. They're slow to get out there. Referee says play on, and now they move the ball without their 13. They do well to recover, and Wilcox has some open space. Bird comes across, and like a hawk out of the sky, she brings her to ground, but it's right outside of the 5, and the Sabres now are on the look. Muniz Ruiz moves it to the number 10. Finally, outside of that playmaker role, she gets over the top. Shomar gives us a little bit of a show as the Sabres now end up on top, and they are still down a player.
Wow, there's a reaction. What a great play from the Sabre. Just 2 passes away from a contact. It looked for all money they were going to keep it tight, but they do move it wide. Probably a disappointing tackle there from the Growlers. Didn't quite get the one-on-one tackle, so they found an edge. Just as we look back at here, it was a good opportunity to make the tackle one-on-one, and they find the edge. Megan Bird does a desperate effort, but if you just look at the defense, they didn't quite get back into position. And I tell you what, Darren, we have got a very, very important kick coming up here just to make sure they can keep that scoreboard ticking over. But what she's doing really well, she's also taking time out of the sin bin as well. As you can see, she's just taking her time there. Very wise.
In championships, sometimes the timer is the last defender. So the Sabres definitely milking this one as number 10, Shomar, looks to take this conversion. Set for the kickoff. She goes to boot. It looks like it's good. Flags go up. So that brings our score 26-19. Sabres on top.
Yeah, just a missed one-on-one tackle there. Megenberg does get back to make that tackle, but just good recycling of the ball. Great strength at the ruck, moving it. Just watch this running line. It pulls in the defenders, drops that ball off. There is the hole. She takes it, number 10, and then she gets a really important try and also converts it. And that conversion may prove crucial.
Done now meeting the Growlers in the middle. They get set for a kickoff, though. It's anybody's game here. We've got about 2 minutes away from that 60-minute mark, and even though Rugby 15s is played in 2 40-minute halves, we saw the momentum shift that happened 20 minutes into that last one when the Growlers ended up really taking control. So this last minute means everything, as well as the last 20 as we talk about work rate and fitness. The Sabres now showing that they're pretty fit in the contact. Wagner gives a little bit of a fend and a shove and gets some meters as they give it to Smith, who yet again works well with David. Now that's a lethal combo in the midfield, as now they've got some space to work it wide after all of the defense paid attention to that one. A sniping tackle is unsuccessful, though, as it's missed. And the ball was available. The lack of ball protection, but a lack of discipline gets a penalty given to the Growlers, and the Sabres now are set for the penalty play. Lopez takes a little stroll away, though, so we'll see what they decide to do.
Yeah, it was a good decision that the ball was out, so they saw it was there. It looks like the ruck wasn't formed, so maybe she could dive on the ball. The jackal is allowed. It looks like she was off her feet. It looked clear to me. But you could play that ball from that position, so just the execution was slightly off, and then you can run down the clock even more on this sin bin. It just looked like, from a Sabres point of view, that they really reacted fantastically from conceding that tie score and try, and they've really upped their game in this last 5 minutes. We mentioned at the start of the program, Darian, momentum's a funny thing.
Momentum here trying to stay in favors of the Sabres as Muniz Ruiz gets the ball away to that hinge defense. And now trying to do a little bit too much is David in that center field, as she ends up knocking it on, and the Growlers get a scrum. But both teams alternating possession here as we enter to the final 20 minutes of this D2 matchup.
Number 4. Give me 1 second.
And up top, we've got the South Buffalo over the Babes. And right now, South Buffalo 17-0 over top. About 13 minutes gone in that first half. This winner will face off whoever wins in this Growlers Sabres matchup. But the contest and the matches press on here.
Set.
This tournament format, it's all about the attritional value. So it's all about winning today, but also there's another day tomorrow for these athletes.
A little bit of a tussle there at the bottom of the ground. Finds Stanton under a lot of pressure there. The forwards, though, come to the rescue as they pick and go and win the ball cleanly. Attack looks like it is set up for the Growlers, and they go in with their forwards off of that point formation. That point, though, almost got isolated against the hungry and ready to fight Smith. But the ball gets selflessly moved away from Bird. A little bit of a half gap opens up, and too much on that offload. Ends up with a lucky bounce. Growlers under a lot of pressure, though, as the Sabres flood into that line. Munoz Ruiz just coming up on that defensive line. The defensive line, though, gets a knock on for the Growlers. And on the attack now is the Sabres. Trying to get their arms free is Manu. She gets her arms a little bit too free there as the ball is tossed around and then played on the ground slightly, but Dunn says advantage is over. And so Sabres now will watch as Morton tries to take it around the corner, but is just flattened by this defense from the Growlers. Looks like they're a little bit slow to get up. It looks like a Growler might have gotten stuck underneath there. Some brutal stuff happening here. David off of that line, but is met heavily by the Growlers. Deciding to use that switch line again is Lopez and finds it in the threat of Smith. Smith makes it to the 22 and then loses it. And Shimmick, the Sabres were not expecting that as they're kind of slow to get back, but a forward pass for the Growlers after all that work.
Oh, that was a big opportunity. Maybe just needed to give that pass just a split second earlier. But you can see now from the Sabres, this is their game plan. They are punching and punching and punching, and they're just really trying to take the life out of the Growlers. But the Growlers had an opportunity there to move that ball just a bit quicker. So this game is still finely balanced as we see 19-0 at the top of our screen.
We got players getting checked out.
Next Level Rugby bringing you the Super Regional Northern Championships for the USA Club at D2. Looks like a player is getting attended to. Oh, those rugby fingers. There's nothing more fun than a super fun finger injury in these matchups.
Yeah, the trainers this weekend are going to be very busy because, as I said, if you win this game or even if you lose, you're playing again tomorrow. And it'd be interesting to see. It looks like South Buffalo, what was it, 19-0, potentially an easier game going there. The game that we've got between the Growlers and the Sabres, oh, it's attritional. So they're going to be busy tonight, the trainers, getting these athletes back in condition for a finals day.
And even though these matches that are extremely competitive, they're fun, but that second day feeling, Craig, that you just mentioned, it hurts. It's not comfy. And when you have matches that are a little bit easier on the days before, the team that plays in these competitive matches that we look for as rugby players definitely feel that day two feeling for sure. So South Buffalo on top of the Boulder Babes, and here with us, you've got the Sabres on top of the Growlers. And we've got about 14 minutes to go as substitutes start to roll in there for both sides. Finishers, that's a coaching tactic in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a lot of it at championship rugby. Which team tends to have the most depth is going to be really crucial. If you can make substitutions who are going to come on and add value, that is unbelievably important in these championship games, particularly with two matches on a Saturday and Sunday.
A lot of trust to be had in the finishers, but a starter who's been massive throughout the game. Smith gets two big fens and is taken down by Shimmick, protecting that defensive line. It looks like there might have been a little bit of a loss of possession and control of that ball for just a second.
Yeah, Mandy Smith doing what she does best. Look at her, absolute power athlete, powering into contact. Maybe leading with the elbow just a little bit. She's got to be a little bit careful there. Mainly you need a stiff arm with the hand as opposed to the forearm. But I tell you what, that's not take away from a power athlete that she is.
Ball goes up and it's not straight. So a option comes in for the Sabres and they look to scrum, and it's about 10 meters outside of the try zone. So they'll be looking to extend their lead.
Yeah, this is big. Now it all comes about territory, and particularly with fatigue, when skill sets errors are at their premium, you want to be in the right half of the field. And what you tend to say is defense is, even if you don't have the ball, but you have field position, teams can't often hurt you from 70, 80, 90 meters out. And then the icing on the cake is that you get pressure on the line out, you get the turnover. And I can imagine that Mandy Smith at number 8 is probably going to have a run here, because she has been looking powerful off the base of that scrum.
Smith selflessly gives it away to Lopez, who gives it back to Mild, who was our original yellow card, and they're moving the ball well until he gets to that last attacker. It goes up in behind, but it works its way backwards. So referee says play on as well. Sets an attacking platform for Lopez, who moves it into the hands of the forwards. Miles in there with Smith, so that combo gets them many meters as they find themselves in the same position as what the scrum was just in. Munoz Ruiz, though, moves it to the number 17, who cuts back inside, gets back on the back foot of the Growlers, and working to get you that number in just a second. But what a try for the Sabres.
Yeah, Mandy Smith was absolutely vital in that play. So big players step up at big moments, and that's what Smith did. She was the one with those initial power and runs. I mean, it was just great continuity. It was actually very similar to the try they scored before. They moved it through to the wider channels. You can see that Ruiz is in there. Nice, good fend. And look at that pass. Excellent work. And there's Cunningham. And then she steps in, wiry player. She rides the tackle and scores a great try. But it did come from that power play, and you can just see that Sabres, how they've managed that momentum shift, what they had against them, and then their big players like David, and we've mentioned him many times, Smith, Munoz Ruiz is getting there over the gain line as well, and that's just starting to take its toll as we enter the last 12 minutes.
Mild set for the kickoff. And that was the back row player Cunningham who scored that try, who's working on that last bit of attack. So we talked about the Sabres pattern for the first half, and we can see them really starting to get in the groove of that 13 minutes in. They're 31 on top of the Growlers with a kick to come. Kick goes up. It is to the left. So the Sabres still stay on top 31-19, but Craig, we were extremely impressed with their pattern early on, and it looks like they're slowly getting into the flow of it now in the second half.
Yep, they kept possession. Exactly what happened there. That offload is beautiful. And look at this step. That's 1, 2, 3. And then the fourth defender beating 4 defenders. So that's just great work between power and then that mobility to get through and score and the evasion. But remember, they did that mainly. Those 2 tries have come with when they had 14 players on the field. It looks like Mild is back on now because she was taking that kick. But not only did the Sabres manage the momentum, they did it with a play in the sin bin, and that's testament to their character as a team.
So the Sabres now looking to receive this kickoff. Growlers set for it as Shimmick gives it a good whack, and that gets it almost to the sideline, and there's a lot of pressure that comes in, but they do well to get back on that inside shoulder. So Manu allows them to attack more as she wins that kickoff cleanly, and of course they move it into the hands of Smith. Smith doing what she has done best this whole game. Every single time she has the ball in hand, she gets meters and they get space. Can they work it here? The Sabres buy themselves a little bit of time, and it gets into the final bit of hands just by a fingertip, and this is why you want it in the hands of the wings. The number 11, looks like that was a substitute. Hanky gets well within the 40. And the Sabres now working into the forwards, but David looks like she got stood up there. And Lopez, under a bit of pressure, has to move it to the left, and then it gets knocked on there, but bodies dropping around for the Growlers. Looks like they're starting to get a little bit quiet out there.
Yeah, I didn't quite get the number, but there was a spot tackle there what certainly stopped a try. But just as we look at both screens, you got it's look at the bodies on the floor on the bottom right. That's the effort they've been putting in, as it looks like it's still 19-0 over on the other field. But these players are tired. They have put in a massive shift, and they've been working hard. 10 minutes to go. Tell you what, if the Growlers can get the next score, that's going to give us a grandstand finish. And you feel if the Sabres can get over the line one more time, that might just do it. But this game is still evenly poised. It just needs one line break, and it could be all the difference. 10 minutes to go is a long time.
And it feels very long for people who work full-time jobs and then come out and then play on the weekend. Everybody has been touched by club rugby in some way, shape, or form, and it's wild to think that these athletes are out there working full-time jobs, you know, putting in work around the rugby communities, and then they come out here and then they play for the weekend. So Just very impressive stuff from all sides, but the fatigue definitely starting to set in there early for the Growlers. As they get up for a scrum though, 10 minutes gone left to go for us. Pressure happens at the back, and it looks like it might have been illegally. That flanker just unbound a little bit too quickly for Dunn's liking, and they'll get a penalty here.
Yeah, Cunningham just coming off at the open side flanker there, number 17, just breaking her bind before that ball was out. Probably got communication there from the linesman, from the assistant referee, I should say. Just good communication between the referee teams. And when it gives an opportunity now for Growlers, like it's starting to get to a stage where they need the next score, and they kind of need it quickly, and not better positioned to do it than from a line out on halfway.
Line
19-31 here. 10 minutes left to go in this regional semi. Team whoever wins this brutal matchup will play again tomorrow. And Lopez getting a little bit too feisty in there. She gets a turnover, but she also gets a penalty. So now the Growlers, you just see tired bodies start to fold over. Stanton, who's been a massive ball carrier this whole match, gives it to Shimmick, who's their kicker, who's done well to get them some good positions on lineouts.
Yeah, just as we look back on this, it was a scrappy ball. Lopez, number 9, coming in. It looked like, yeah, it was tight. I think it was the second bite that she had. If she got on it first time, she could have been all right, but it looks like she took a second bite at that ball. Maybe you could argue that the Rapids were, the Growlers were off their feet there, so probably two decisions could have went either way. But here we go. Growlers have got the ball. Like a knock on there.
Maul looks like it was broken apart, and then a knock-on ensued from the Growlers. They're just not able to keep hands on it, and not able to keep hands on Smith either. She's able to throw some hands around and gets some meters. She's right at the 50 now, and they look to move the ball. Mild almost gets it in the hand of Munaz Ruiz. That's not common for the centers to have a knock-on. We see there the sheriff slaps, but the fatigue definitely starting to set in for both teams. Kind of came onto the Sabres, though, a little bit later.
Yeah, Mandy Smith, I tell you what a game. She has just made yards every single time that she's had the ball, and the Sabres are going to be disappointed with that one because they had the Growlers on the back foot. They could have really sealed the deal here. It was giving them a lifeline to get back into the game. Just these skill set errors are starting to mount up. You see number 8, hands on knees, and from Smith, but my word, she has worked seriously hard in this game, and they're going to need another 10 minutes from her just to keep working to try and get them over the line. But the Growlers have still got an opportunity.
19-31. It looks like somebody might have cramped up there on the sideline for the Sabres. Not sure who that is, but ATs, we're always grateful for them on 2 days of rugby competition. Referee Dunn comes over to see if that player will remain on or will come off. Looks like she's up and moving. But ready to take a break there. The Sabres lose Wagner there after possibly a cramp, but subs are starting to roll in as the minutes tick away. And the Growlers just watching that clock go by.
Yeah, it's starting to get a time now where it's kind of now or never for the Growlers. They need to get 2 scores at least if you're going to get the conversion. So it's really, really important now that they put something on the board quickly. The Sabres are going to be trying to drain that clock as slow as they possibly can.
A big shove happens at a scrum time there as the Sabres are forcing the Growlers to remain strong. They do, and this line speed can't withstand the looping play that happens between that 10-12 combo, and they get it to this lethal player, Bird. Can Bird be the game changer when she gets it back to Shemek? Shemek makes it in the corner, and so now the Sabres, they're going to go 24-31, but was that enough to get them to tomorrow?
What a try there. Wraparound play from a great scrum. You can see the wraparound from number 10. There she goes, and then watch this ball to Bird. But not only Bird, look how she kept engaged for a double touch. So it's a step in, and then she used work rate, stayed in the passing channel, and then she gets through in for the try. But I tell you what, that was an excellent play. I just want to shout out there to Smith once again. Although the try was conceded, she made the tackle that the try had to be scored on the wide channel. And conversions are going to be absolutely crucial right now. You can see the points difference. Okay, so this has got to go over to give them an opportunity. So that was a big play as well. Good effort.
Shimmick not able to convert them.
That's why that conversion was absolutely crucial. So you can see now 7 points. So right now the Growlers have an opportunity to tie if they can get a converted try. So I think 5 minutes with fatigued bodies, we're in from an excellent finish.
5 minutes left to go in this regional semifinal. Both teams competing for the opportunity to play for that regional championship. So the Sabres lead a big defensive launch after a kick receipt from the Growlers. Doing well to protect the ruck. They send in a lot of bodies. They're really trying to maintain their possession here. As this combination between Stan and Shimmick, and a little chip kick over the defense. It's cheeky. Casisia tries to get over top of it. Flag goes up, and it goes in favor of the Sabres, it looks like. So a lineout will be awarded there, but you can see that the Growlers are still remaining in the thick of it.
Looks like we've given it to the Growlers, actually. Just looking at the assistant referee there. So what a big play. Found the space. The chase was on. We know the speedster number 11, Hot Dog, she goes by. Put a bit of pressure on. I tell you what, this is a big moment in this game. It looks like it just came off the Sabres player at the very end there. The assistant referee was right on it, so we'll go with her call.
And another one that's always right on it seems to be Smith, as she gets that line off, cherry picks it off of the back of the line out and gets a lot of meters. She was isolated though. Looks like even her mates weren't expecting that, as now the Growlers go on the attack after a turn of events here. Trying though to stay in the thick of it. They've only got about 4.5 minutes left to score. 31-24. Sabres still leading. And looks like referee's unhappy with something that happened down there at the bottom. So the Sabres get a penalty. And Lopez looked like she was going to go quick, but we talked about timing and possession, Craig.
Yeah, it looks like the referee just said they're leading with the elbow. So right on the spot there, as you can see, we've seen this tap play a few times now.
Lopez gets it to Manu. Manu tosses a couple bodies to floor, and at desperate times come for desperate measures as they get a little bit too desperate. The Growlers, the number 13 Peeler, gets a penalty. They're not 10. Referee calls them off, but they get back on Sidewell. So the Sabres now with this lethal ball movement. Munoz Ruiz looks for Cunningham. That combo got them the try last time. Was the momentum change that they needed. Somebody's pinned under the bottom though from the Growlers. And the Sabres now in between the sticks. We hear a good tackle call because it also generated a good turnover. But this is a lot of meters that the Growlers are going to have to get out of this end.
Yeah, they're going to have to go 90 meters if they're going to at least get a tie there. But it all starts with the scrum. But wow, what a contest this has been. Both teams have left absolutely everything out there. But interesting setup there. You can see on the right-hand side, yeah, they just started to fix it. There's a lot of space on the left-hand side of the screen as we're looking at it. There's still a 3v1 if the scrum half comes around the corner, and now the defense are starting to adjust. But you saw what the Growlers can do from set piece from last time. They need to win the scrum and see what they can launch.
Growlers win the scrum, but Lopez, who doesn't want anybody to have possession of that ball, she wins well at the contact. And even though it doesn't pay off, it still pins them well into this end. Just taking away the meters and taking away time is the Sabres against the Growlers. As now they can get a little bit risky. They risk it with a
dive down the ball.
Counter ruck, but then an ill-disciplined and ill-timed dive from Cunningham gets the Growlers a penalty, and it gets them only about 15 seconds more of time. 31-24. Kick does
now
go.
Looks like, yep, sorry, Darian. Looks like we're in just last play territory now. It's absolutely do or die.
This is a big moment for this matchup. Growler set for the throw-in. Lineout looks good. Lineout's won cleanly. So now they go on the attack. Stanton gets it to Shemek, who looks for Casisia. They keep possession of the ball, but it looks like they've got to kind of play cleanup crew. Down there was Stanton, as Stanton moves it to Bird. Bird then moves it, and they connect well with that wing. She was waiting patiently for it. That's Chip. Chip moves it back into Bird. Bird gets tossed to the ground, though, but keeps a hand on the ball. Bodies flying in for the Sabres. Manu gets called off from referee Dunn. Forwards now getting it. And none other than Lopez trying to get in there. Just so sneaky. She's been instrumental at breakdown time. Somebody comes in and gives a big shove. That was Manu. And they kick away possession. This is risky, risky stuff. Ball ends up right in between the hands of the number 13, but Cunningham gets it. And it looks like the Sabres have possession. We're at 81 minutes, so all they'll have to do is just kick it out. Lopez, though, gets tossed to ground. She's not well protected, as getting called out of the ruck is a Growler. The Sabres just need to kick it out. They go to boot. It bounces once, bounces twice. Can it find it? Just stops there. Casisia gets taken out by Cunningham, but gets it off to Bird. Bird cuts back inside. Bird has room to work with. Can she give the footwork that means the most? Lopez trying to dig her way in there. Just not able to. 22 meters from their try-zone are the Growlers. Shemek moves it to a forward pod. They have a little bit of space and a good fend, and an offload gets in some more meters, but can they get over top? Somebody's over top. And Dunn calls them off. The Sabres just not able to get that penalty as Shemek. Can she get that second try whenever it means the most? Shemek gets it in between the sticks. And that's going to bring our score 29-31. Conversion to come. Could we have a tie game in this match?
My, oh my, what a try. You can see the space. The Sabres were trying to get there. I thought maybe the pass was on, but that show and go and critically scoring under there. But all the Sabres had to do was kick the ball out. It looks like they went for distance and it didn't get into touch. I wonder how they're going to rue that one, but still, kick to come. This is absolutely crucial. Ooh, I'm nervous.
Set for the kick is Shemek. Now, Shemek already has a try and a conversion to her name. She just recently scored and is set to convert her own try down here in between the sticks. And Craig, we talked about the importance of game management throughout this match, as well as work rate. And you just said it, the poor game management from the Sabres. Could it cost them the opportunity tomorrow? Kick goes up. And flags go up, so we've got a tie ball game, 31-1. Dunn is going to go ahead and blow the whistle.
Give me 1 second. Okay. I got tie game. Is that what you have? You got 31 in all, right?
Stop my watch.
Referee just confirming the score with his ARs.
Yeah. So we gotta check. Give me 1 second. Check with number 4.
31 all means that somebody's got to win the game. So
okay,
Captain Lopez already getting talked to. It looks like referee Dunn is gonna check in with the Growlers, as we're going to have some more time for these teams to play rugby.
Not
With
sure
a
I can
5-minute
take
break
anymore.
right now.
Wow, what a finish.
You've got to wonder if maybe they'll just do a boat race to see who ends up the championship. This is club style rugby, but it looks like both teams are going back to their respective benches. We're going to get more opportunity to play for these two sides, as tomorrow somebody's got to play against the South Buffalo or the Boulder Babes. We've been tuning into that game because of our wonderful camera crew and our leader Ginty from Next Level Rugby, bringing you both games on the live stream.
So you have two running.
If we just look back at some of the highlights there, it was essentially it's two different styles of play. It was the power play from the likes of Smith with the ball in hand. Look at her, absolute athlete powering through. And then it was counteracted by the Growlers, who were more efficient as they started to move the ball wide, exactly like we saw here, like players like Megan Bird. And that's the beauty of rugby. You've got two styles, two clash of styles, who are both equally as important as each other, as you can see with 31 points all. Just looking back at some of the tries. But I tell you what, Sabres are going to be really disappointed with that one. All they had to do was kick the ball out. They decided to keep it in, or maybe it's just a poor execution. But fair play to the Growlers. It showed their commitment, their character, and they scored under the post. But remember, she still had the kick to come. It was really, really big kick coming up from Schmick. She nailed it.
And we've just seen multiple moments there for the game management, but we'll be right back with you for some more time here with the Growlers and the Sabres for some overtime play.
Welcome back. I guess the yeah. So this is heads. This is tails. You're gonna flip it and you're gonna call in the air. It's tails. Would you like to kick or choose a side?
We'll take this side.
You're gonna take this side, so you're gonna kick from the far side. Okay.
How long do we have?
We got 1 minute.
I really thought that the packet said 2 5-minute halves, and then 5 minutes.
I'm
but
going
I
off.
know I'm going off before.
Yeah,
I don't have the packet on me, so I have no.
We might be figuring it out right now, in fact.
Oh, you say 2 5-minute halves?
So we need to figure that out right now, because what we have is different. The sheet, pull that sheet out, the overtime law sheet.
Is
What
that
we
the
have is
USA
different.
one?
Yeah.
Go by the USA one. Yep.
Yeah, so 2 10-minute halves.
USA always
And
super
then
ties.
if it's no score
those
determined
are-
after that 20 minutes, we then go
That's
into
Midwest rules of competition go by USA.
a score, a golden score.
Yeah, we're going. Yeah.
So they play a 20-minute game, and if there's no score after that 20-minute game, we then go into
All of the criteria.
the
The technical questions we don't get called on again. So they're coming up with an armbar, we're getting low, but then they're coming down and hitting us with our hooks.
Welcome back, team, where we are going into overtime after a well-awaited last couple of minutes between the Growlers and the Sabres. Some poor game management coming in from the Sabres. They were unfortunate enough that they didn't kick it out, so the Growlers had an opportunity to attack, and Shimmick, she scored the last 2 tries to get them here and converted both of them. So now we will play 2 5-minute halves. And then if neither team scores, then we'll go to a 5-minute overtime golden point where whatever team scores. But 15 minutes would be a lot of rugby to play. Craig, we've watched them go back and forth with possession. The Growlers, though, taking advantage of any opportunity that they get.
Green, good.
Absolutely. Yeah, finally poised here. As you said, 2 5-minute halves. So there could be scores, but they have to equal the score before it goes to sudden death. Yeah, very finely poised. Let's have a go.
Already ready to have a go is the Growlers, and having a go at the breakdown is the Sabers. Somebody is called out of there, done said, as they press on. The Growlers are going to have to really get loud in their communication here, as they also get loud in the contact, and a little bit of a half break, a little bit more than a half break, comes in for the Growlers as they're on the attack. Shimmick, the last 2 try scorers, gets it away to the number 4, who gives an offload. Tossed to ground, though, and able to field it well is Stanton, but the launch coming in from Manu just isn't enough, but it is enough time for the Sabres to have a full launch. Doing well on this rush defense is the Sabres, as a cut almost back inside just buys Chip a little bit of time. Growlers having to come across, playing a lot of left to right rugby. Bird runs a little bit of a dummy line. They're now electing to move it wide as Shimmick gets a one-handed offload back into the hands of Meadows. Craig, a lot of defense having to be played here by the Sabres, but they're holding strong.
Yeah, holding really strong. Great tackling. They're putting pressure on at the ruck. Looks like a turnover there.
Holding strong was Munaz Ruiz, as she gets some go forward off of a turnover and gets it to Mild off of the foot of Smith. Did the ball get played from Lopez? Smith gets isolated, and so now the Growlers are going for it. A lot of messy chaos happening at breakdown time, so they pick and go now, the Growlers, and going more than they picked up. Might have gotten some isolations, but Munaz Ruiz, she draws a penalty, and now the Growlers are well within their 40, but dominating most of the possession here.
Absolutely. Great tackling, turnovers from both teams. It's crazy to think we're already halfway through the first half of overtime here. It shows you how quickly this can go by. Remember, it's 2 halves of 5 minutes, so the time's going to go pretty quickly. And the Sabres, they were defending really tough there, but that is also tiring. So this set piece is going to be absolutely crucial, but the time is ticking.
Growlers will be set for the throw-in, as I'm sure the substitutes have gotten rolled in, but you've got to keep your core group in as well. So both sides have their star players still in. We haven't made any big substitutions here, with Shimmick still remaining in the double try scorer. She moves it into the center field, and a little bit of a weave around. It gets Bird the ball in hand to Casisia. Casisia's got a lot of speed to Burn. She moves it back inside to Bird, who gets a lot of go forward. Does she have enough to finish it? Heartbreak for the Sabres here as Bird takes a dive and draws that 5:36 to 31. Growlers on top and a minute and a half to go.
Yeah, great play. You all came from the line out and then just moving that ball. Megan Bird, look at the double touch. So just as she passed the ball in the red scrum out, look how she keeps engaged and then she powers through. Remember, she's a USA former under-20s player, so she's got some serious pedigree in her game, and then big players at big moments. But it all came from a great line out from the Growlers, who managed to get that ball into the wider channels.
And Shimmick gets sets for the kickoff as our 2 10-minute halves are underway. So there's still an opportunity for the Sabres to come back. Kick goes up. Kick is good. So the Growlers will be on top 38 to 31. A try just between the two after we ended the initial match tied up at 31 to 31. But both teams, we've got about 15 minutes left of opportunity for both sides. Craig, the Growlers look lethal, but that Sabre defense is something to also admire as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes something special to break down the Sabres defense, and Megan Bird brought it there. It's so interesting. There might be confusion going on because I'm reading from the official website here that it should be 2 5-minute halves. So I'm going to keep an eye on what the referee's saying. I'm looking at the official handout. I wonder if there's clarity in here, but either way, I'm excited because I'm commentating on some rugby.
We're always happy to be here where Saturday is a rugby day, and truly every day and every minute is, as the ball just gets knocked in front and a player is offsides. Just ended up right in the hands of the number 9, Stanton, and so this is a very good attacking point for the Sabres here. Mild, successful that time with the kick. Remember, just not even 5 minutes ago, there was an unsuccessful kick that came from Shomar from the Sabres that resulted in a beautiful counterplay from the Growlers that got us here to these overtime moments. Looks like our time is going over, so about 4 minutes left to go in this second half, third half now for both sides. Maul goes up and it looks good as they have Manu spin off of the back of it, does a little spin move around that interior defense of the Growlers, and so now leading the brigade for the Sabres was Janik as they pick and go and then get it into the hands of Smith. Smith, who then gets it into the hands of the number 16, gets over for a try. The Sabres find success in Liberson, and so now we are set for a 36 to 38 point deficit. Kick to come though, but it is pretty far right.
Yeah, big kick to come, but again it came from a line out, and then they eventually managed to get over. But how crucial is, one, it's important scoring the try, but conceding it in the farther parts of the field. Nothing suggests so far that this kick is going over, but it's so finely poised.
36-38, kick is set to come. Mild, the captain, who had a yellow card at the beginning of the second half. We've just seen everything that there is to see in this game. Sets up for the kick. She knows what it means. Kick goes up. It goes to the right. So 36-38. Growlers is still on top. We've got about 2 minutes left to play in this first half of the third half for these teams. And right now, 36-38. Growlers on top. What are you thinking as a Saber?
As a Saber, it's all about winning this kickoff. It's absolutely crucial. You win the kickoff and build up. You know what they can do. They've got those excellent, big, strong ball carriers. Particularly, you're looking at the Mandy Smith, number 8. That's who you want on the ball. But anything can happen. 38, 36. It's the team who gets possession now.
(38-36), drum roll please, is set as Shemek takes that kick. She boots it deep into the 22 as Cunningham, who's got to try to her name, just gets tossed to the sideline and then gets taken out by the Growlers. And on top, we just talked about possession. Could that have been the moment for the Growlers?
Yeah, it's really, really important. But remember, there's still time on this clock here. But possession, you want it to be. It's one of a coach's worst nightmare when a player runs out. Really disappointing. You've got to fight to stay in field. But look, these players have worked hard. They're under serious fatigue. Yeah, just decision making becomes a bit tougher.
Under no fatigue, though, is the lineups of the Growlers as they get it, and they are a little bit slower to get it out. Shemek spots a little bit of a space back behind, and doing well to keep it well is Wells as she takes it right out of the 22, and trying to get that ball back is the Growlers. Bodies end up on top, so they've got to get back on side as a pick and go comes in from the Sabers. Gets them maybe a few meters here. So they're going to want to try and gain some territory as they move it and decide to run a little tips ball that's unsuccessful within their forwards. That interplay results in a turnover to the Growlers, and over that is Stanton as she moves it to Shemek, who then moves it to Bird. Bird moves it to the number 14. Chip gives it back inside to the number 13. Slow to get over there is Stanton. Such tiring rugby played today for this side. They move it to the forwards, who are successful in a tips play. It looks like a player is down, though. It's Nell after she took a hard knock. But Stanton continuing to play on, though. The battle rages on as bodies are just slow to roll on out of there. Moving it to the right now is Bird. Oh, and a lovely dummy. And just the patience. Finds it in the hand of Casisia, who moves it back into a forward. Hands are still free as the Sabres get over top. Stanton there to give it to Bird, who then gives it to a forward pack. Playing a lot of rugby down in this end are the Growlers. Shemek tries to shimmy her way through. Isn't able to connect well with Benzel. We still have a player down over here who's being tended to, so we'll see what referee decides to do as just trying to penetrate through this defense. The Sabres finally are successful in it. They give it a big boot. A chase is on, though, as the Growlers are thankful for Bird to come back. She just gets tossed around there, Craig. This is hurting me just watching it. So now they get it into the hands of Casisia. Casisia runs a pinch line. It gets the ball off of the ground and in for an offload. And the arm goes up to the right-hand side. Looks like an offsides call might have gotten called by referee Dunn. as Shimmick gives it to the forwards. And an initial advantage for
Tackle from an offside position.
an offsides call. You've really
This
got to
is
wonder what the
exhausting.
time is.
Yeah, it's like 12 minutes now. So what we're into the 92nd minute. Remember, it looks like the referee is playing 2 halves of 10 minutes, which is an interesting call. So there's another 10 minutes to come after this. Absolutely incredible. As you just see the players with their hands on their knees, you don't blame them. They have been working so hard, and this game is just still in the balance.
I feel for them. Shimmick gets set to tap. Looking up at the defensive line. A whole band comes around. Casisia gets it back inside. Shimmick's still on the ground, so somebody's got to recover it. And they might have spotted a little bit of space on that weak side, but just unsuccessful there, as it looks like we'll go to a little bit of time for each team to regroup, and then we'll play final 10 minutes with the Growlers on top, 38-36. Welcome back, team. Even though we're revved up for the last 5 minutes of this, we know that these players are tired after they have played 90 minutes of rugby. They've got 10 minutes left to go, 38-36. The Growlers leading. And Craig, talk us through what happened and what got us to this moment of the final 10 minutes of overtime.
It seems so long ago now, but the Sabres had an opportunity to kick the ball out to win the game. They didn't quite make touch. And then the Growlers, they got their hand in possession. When we look back at it here, all that ball needed to do was go out. The Growlers kept it in touch, and they scored the try. And here we are with the conversion to come, and now we're in overtime.
And off to the races now is Manu as they move it back inside here. Now, whoever wins this is going to make a pretty big difference. It's been slow scoring here for the last couple of minutes. Kind of comes in waves. And now Smith, who comes like a tidal wave, is just continuing to press on. Bird tries to hawk her down. Bird doesn't drown. She stays afloat. And it keeps that hope alive of them at defending the scoreline. Bird has to make another tackle on Mild. Mild smacked to ground. And the Growlers now are finding some isolation there at the breakdown with the Sabres.
Hands out.
Turnover is successful here as the Growlers are really having to fight to keep the Sabres out of there. Finding some weakness around the breakdown is the Sabres. Lopez gets called off though. And a not releasing penalty now finds it in the hands of the Growlers.
Yeah, Lopez there. Just looks like referee called it that she got her timing wrong. But this is a difficult kick. You've got to kick it a long way to get the ball out. And even if it goes out, you've still got an opportunity from a Sabres point of view. So you should be loading that sideline now because you've got an opportunity to attack. And there it is. It goes out, but no distance gained.
Right, Craig, and you talked earlier, and we've harped on it throughout this long string of play, is the time and the game management. What does it mean for both teams with the Growlers leading on top of the Sabres? You've got two completely differing points of view as we enter into the last 10 minutes.
Blue, what's up?
Yeah, the thing is, it's still a long time, so it's very difficult from a Growler's point of view to start kind of closing down the game, not really starting to pass the ball, because you've still got 8 minutes to play. That's a long time, as we've seen in this game, and the Growlers don't necessarily want an arm wrestle. That's going to help the Sabres, whereas the Sabres, there's still plenty of time. It's 2 points, 8 minutes to go, so it can't hit the panic button yet.
Panic, though, might strike for the Growlers with the not straight throw-in. As we talk through Smith, we've said her name throughout this whole time.
Oh, just absolutely such a crucial player. Look how she's powering through. She did this from minute 1. Now she's on minute 101, and she's still going strong. She's doing an absolutely great job to lead her team, and that's what initially got this field position. The pressure starts to tell, and now you've got one of the great opportunities for a scrum launch on the left-hand side, because as you can see, the defensive scrum half is out of the game, so that makes an instant overload. Should Saber be able to get the ball.
Stay there, stay there.
Lopez gets it out of the scrum, but just not able to connect with a Mild, and the ball very nearly got knocked on, but they're able to gather it, and they get a little bit of a break around the hinge. Bird, though, trying to weasel her way in there. Looks like somebody got called for not releasing, goes in favor of the Growlers.
Yeah, not releasing and also off her feet, so that's just fatigue with that clear out. There was no punching it, there was no drive, it was almost just going straight off your feet. Referee was right in position there to give that call. And this is what's good from a Growler point of view. They can just kill the clock. They can take the best part of 90 seconds off the clock now by the time they kick the ball out, form the line out. So this is what they need to be doing. From a Sabres point of view, if you're there, you're talking to the referee, come on, we've got to speed up, we've got to hurry up. So now it's just the clock from a Sabre point of view is disappearing really fast. From a Growler's point of view, it's going by really slowly. It just depends what side of the coin you're on.
And Sabres finding themselves on the flip side there. They're down 36-38 after they led throughout most of the second half, but the poor game management that led to a kick not making it out got us into overtime. But about 5 minutes left to go here.
You have 5 in the line out.
Short arm penalty goes in favor of the Growlers, and they are within the 40, and just heartbreak seems to almost set in for the Sabres.
Scrum would be a good decision here, because that would take another minute off the clock. It looks like they're going to tap and play, though.
Shimmick decides to tap and go there, and the Growlers having a little bit of fire underneath them and a little bit of too much sauce on that one. Gets the ball just knocked out, and that looked like a little bit of some cheeky play from the Sabres, but it works in their favor, and they'll get a scrum.
Yeah, they might have lived to rue that one if they had their time again. Maybe just take the scrum, take a minute out of the game, and then you can rebuild from there. But they went with a tap and go. It was a good, strong run, but it gave the opportunity for the Sabres to get the ball back. And look, who's the big player right now? Maybe number 8 off the base of the scrum. If she's been running like she's been doing all day, you can cause some real damage here.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Scrum time for the Sabres as Lopez doesn't elect to go through Smith. She goes to her fly half, who gets it to Munoz Ruiz, who gets it to the wing, but she cuts back inside and is just taken to ground, but also got caught a little bit underneath the hands of that inside center Peeler, the outside.
Yeah, it was just really good defense there. There's a penalty, looks like it's called. I'm not too sure what for. Let's listen. High tackle.
A little bit of a Randy Orton moment there from Peeler. It's the possession going back in favor of the Sabres. And Lopez running out the clock a little bit. We talked about how they need to push the pace because they're down, and we've only got about 3.5 minutes left in this overtime. This determined who goes on to play for the regional championship, who will then look to go to the USA Club Rugby Nationals May 18th and 19th. So both teams need to have a lot of pep in their step here, as Stanton, who's been peppy this whole time, gets a lot of meters with the sit-back defense for the Sabres, but a knock on to the number 14 on the Growlers, Chip. She gets a chip on her shoulder. Somebody looks like they might have gotten a chip as well, as they're slow to get up off the ground.
Again, maybe surprised they went to kick the ball out to go for the line out. One, because the line out hasn't been working too well for the Sabres, and also two, how devastating they have been with the ball in hand. And when they've kept the ball in hand, they've been making big line breaks. So maybe, look, it's tough for these athletes out there. They've been working so hard. They're in the 97th minute of rugby. But yeah, you can see that decision making for the Sabres has started to desert them a little bit. But we've got this ball. We've got 2.5 minutes, and we've seen it before.
Crouch.
We might see it again. There could be a big moment in this game.
Set.
The Growlers, who were down until the last minute, now finding themselves on top, as there's only 2 minutes left to go in this overtime. Who will take it away as the Sabres get Moniz Ruiz? She gets this party started and continues to party well after hours, just taking it into the heart of Shimmick. Shimmick, though, desperate to get the ball back, tries. Smith, with nobody going for ankles, gets some go forward. Looks like there's a Growler slow to get up after some tiring defense there. She's up and moving, though, ready to finish this game. The Sabres are trying to get in there and gets her hands off the ground as she gets a good counter. But Manu almost took advantage of that inside line. Looks like she might have taken a little bit too much off of Shimmick. She's slow to get up as well, as the Sabres continue to move the ball through Muniz Ruiz. Cunningham gets tossed to ground by Bird, and a high tackle comes in, and
15.
referee Dunn
Captain
turns the time off, calls for a conversation.
So it's a yellow card.
High tackle from Bird, who's their fullback, that final line of defense. She also gets called for a high tackle. That's the second one now, so she'll spend the rest of this game in the sin bin. Could that have just costed them a chance tomorrow?
Very big play there from Bird. It was just what we call a seatbelt tackle. There was no aggression necessarily in it, but that's still a yellow card, easy for the referee. And now tap play penalties got them into the early lead from the Sabres. Can they do it again? We've been seeing the tap penalty. You maybe want to give it to, maybe just looking at the numbers there, you want to keep Mandy Smith there for the second phase potentially. Looks like they might use her first phase. Here she goes.
Smith, of course, just ready to rock and rumble and ready to seal the deal. Lopez, who's remained so fit throughout this time, just orchestrating a plan of attack for the Sabres here. This could be the final bit of possession, as we've only got 1 more minute left to go. Muniz Ruiz gets it to the fullback, who then gets it to the wing. There's space outside, but good cover, low defense, gets them there, and she's not held, but she is tossed out of bounds. There's only about a minute to go in the Growlers. Everybody just slow to get up after some grueling hours played for rugby.
Well, the good news is with only 2 points in it, 1 score, we know we're not getting any more overtime, so this is it now. We've got 30 seconds left. If you are from the Growlers' point of view, you're asking the referee, sir, how long is left in this game? Because all they have to do, if you're looking at the game clock now, is keep it for 2 or 3 phases. But there's a lot of jeopardy in that, because they're deep in their own half. One mistake could be crucial.
That mistake was almost set in stone, and a knock on goes in favor of the Sabres, but time is called by referee Dunn, and the Growlers, some tiring rugby, gets them the opportunity to play tomorrow in the D2 Super Northern Regional Championship. We've got our next game coming up here, the Indian Palas versus the Kansas City Rugby Football Club. But Grand Rapid Growlers take this one away. Come back and hang out with us in just a few minutes.